Hello, welcome back to our PICO-8 tutorial series. In this video, we're going to take a look at adding gravity and jumping to convert our top-down game that we have at the moment to a side-scrolling platformer type game. I usually do this where we do the top-down first and we get the camera things worked out. That's easier to do top-down. So let's just review that. Hold on, let me find the... Let me go to my tutorials here and load up where we were last. This tutorial 03. Let me just go ahead and save this at tutorial 04. So that we are working on 4 now. If I control S, we save 4. There we go. All right, so this is where we were at the end. We can move around and we have collision. So getting those working in a top-down for your game makes it easier before you, if you want to make a side-scrolling platform. I recommend making it work top-down like this. Get your collision detection working, and get your movement working, and get your camera working, because those things will remain the same even when we go to a platformer type side-scrolling game. So let's get into the editor and let's rework our map a bit so that we have more of a side-scrolling level. So what I'm going to do here is take this tile, which is the erase tile. Remember, the first one is always the erase. I'm going to get rid of some of this top here on this one as well. Zoom out. We have a bunch of stuff here. Now, in recent versions of PICO-8, they added a nice feature. If you have somehow accidentally selected a different empty tile, it puts a little dot in the corner. I don't know how well you can see that, but it puts a little dot in the top right, top left, excuse me, of the tile to show you that it's not actually empty. It's just a tile with nothing in it. It's not the same thing as empty. We want empty for a very good reason here. We'll see in a second. Go ahead and put blocks here, and we'll put a little cap there. Maybe you can jump in there, and then there's something down there. I don't know. Open that up. We have all of this. Let's go ahead and get rid of a bit more. Sort of sculpt this top piece here a bit. And the reason I'm doing that is when we run it, now we have blue sky. And why is it blue sky? Well, much earlier in the video, in the series, excuse me, when we did our clear, we used the blue so that we weren't clearing with the black screen and we could tell where we had and had not cleared things. Now we want a blue sky. So, now that that works, it is time to put in some gravity, and then we'll add jumping after we have gravity. But we're going to need gravity first. So we've organized our code already into knit player and move player, and we have draw map and draw player. Let's go into our move player code, which is on our tab 1, where we put it. Here's our move player. So at the beginning, we save off, what's our current sprite, and what's our desired X, our original X and our original Y. And then we go through here and we take inputs in. Go down here. Here's our input on our cheat sheet. Here we go. So we take in these different button presses, button 1 being right, button 0 being left, and we move the X. And then we move button 2 and 3, which are up and down. Well, we're not going to do that anymore. It's a at least not this way, right? So we're just going to take those out and put a note here, add grav, and everything else is going to be okay. Should be okay. We can move back and forth. We still have the off angle moves for the eyeball animation. I'm going to leave those in, but we can only move back and forth now. We still get collision detection, but we can't move up and down. Okay. So we need to add grav. Let's figure out, first of all, some variables. I'm going to go ahead and put these in player. They could go anywhere. Let's say gravity is 3 to start with. Maybe, you know what, that might be too hard. That's harsh. That might be too harsh. Let's say 2. I'm thinking in the number of pixels per frame that is going to move you down. Okay? So I'm going to make a thing called grav, and we're going to set it to 2. And then what we're going to do here is pl.y is going to plus equals grav. So this is all we need to really do, almost, right? So why can't we move anymore? Well, what's going on is every frame we're being pushed down 2, okay? So every frame we get pushed down 2. Then we do our check, right? So he gets pushed down here. So he's actually here, right? He gets pushed down into the brick. And then we check and say, hey, can he move there? Well, no, it's inside of a brick. So cancel everything. Well, we don't want to cancel everything anymore. We just want to cancel the gravity, but the X movement was okay. If he was trying to move left or right, that was okay. So what we're going to do is sort of split this up. I'm going to copy this whole thing. I'm going to put it here. And we're going to do these separately. So when they come in the first time, we'll have move the X. Are we allowed to move the X? Then move the X. Then we're going to try the Y. Are we allowed to move the Y? If so, we're going to move it. We're not going to adjust the X in that case, though. So we're actually going to test map collision twice. Making that function in a prior video saved us a lot. That's on our tab 2 over here. If you want to go back a few videos and review how map collision is working. But we basically pass in where we are, and it tells us if we're hitting a tile that has been flagged collision. So now, we can move left and right, even with gravity. Doesn't look like much is going on. We've done quite a bit. We're doing pretty well. I do kind of like that we can diagonally look up and down. That's neat. All right. So now we need to jump. Jump's going to need a few things. First, I'm going to make a thing called jump max. Okay? And I'm going to set it, let's try 5. Okay? And then on the player, I need to know actually how much he's jumping by. We're going to set it by 0 at the moment. How is this going to work? Right? Well, what's going to happen is the player's going to hit the jump button. Right? When the player hits the jump button, we're going to set the player's jump. We're going to set that pl.j to the max. Right? Which is 5 right now. Okay? That's going to push him up 5. We want that to go up 5. You know what? And I think what we're going to do is we're going to make that -5. Okay? Just to make the math a little bit easier when we get down there later. So, we're going to give him -5 on the Y. It's going to shoot him up. But of course, there's still gravity. The gravity's going to push him back down by 2. Means he's going to go up by 3. Right? And that's going to get him going up into the air. Then what we're going to do, each frame is, we're going to take this value, and we're going to make it closer to 0 by 1. The next time, it's going to be -4. So he's going to go up 3 pixels, right, in the first frame. And then the next frame, the -4, we take that from the 2. He's still going to have a -2. Going to go a little bit higher. And then the next frame is going to wind out and he's going to be just a -1. He's going to go a little bit higher. Not much, a little bit. But then it's going to be 0. And he's going to be the same. And then the gravity's going to kick back in, right? So at this point, so this was -4. This will be -3. This will be -2. Now he's going to do -1, which means gravity's going to be 1. It's going to start to come back down. And then we're going to be back to 0, and gravity's going to be at the full force. And he's going to have a little bounce. All right? So how do we do this? Well, we're going to figure out, before we do the grav, okay, we move the X. Now let's see, button 4 here. Now I'm going to use button 5. I'm going to use this X button. Okay, I'm going to use button 5. I'm going to say if, I'm going to use button P instead of BTN. All right. If you look over there on the side, down here, after I get my code subbed in, so, and I said I was going to make that negative, and I did. Okay. If the button's pressed, there, and now we're just going to add pl.j. Right? And then at the end of all of the logic that happens, we get down here, we're going to say if pl.j is less than 0, because it's negative, then what we're going to do is we're going to add 1 to it. So it does what I said. And you know what? Just to be safe. Now we're doing nice, solid numbers, right? We set jump to 5, and then we're going to -5, and we're going to add 1. And so it's going to equal 0 at some point. But let's say at some point we decide to start using decimal places, or our math gets a little bit more complicated, and it doesn't exactly equal 0. If pl jump end up equaling, if player.j ends up equaling 0.5, then we're actually going to have it be like 2.5. And it's going to be weird because it's only going to happen after a jump sometimes, right? So just to make sure that doesn't happen, we'll put an else if here that says if plj ever gets greater than 0, then just fix it. Just set it to 0. Okay? That's just a safety bit of code there, to make sure things are doing what we expect. Right? So back here, why did I use button P? Well, it says down here, only true, button P version, is only true when the button was not pressed in the last frame. And then it repeats every 4 frames after. So if somebody's holding down a key, right, button P will be true as long as the key is held down. That makes sense for the left and right, you know, and the arrow keys, right? That makes sense. As long as they're holding that direction, we're going to move that direction. But the jump, we kind of want to tap. But somebody's not going to actually tap 1/30th of a second. They're going to hold that button down for like 5 or 6 frames before they let go. And I don't want to be processing it. Right? I only want to process it once. Now, I may want to allow double jumping and advanced things later, but we'll add to this in a second when you see some of the errors. That this isn't enough of a test. This is just part of a test, but it'll get us going. So, move back and forth works, and we hit X, and we get a little hop. We get a little hop. We hang sometimes. Wonder why we're hanging. So if I hold it down, you can see our issue, right? So why are we getting stuck? Why are we getting stuck here? Why are we getting stuck off of 1? Well, the answer to that is we are right now 1 pixel off the ground. Only 1 pixel down here. But gravity is 2. So what are we doing right now? Well, we're moving down 2, moving to this pixel. Okay. We're going up, that collides, and then we're canceling all of it. So that's going to be a bit of a tricky thing. We're going to table that, and I will solve it for you later in the video. But that's why that's happening. Our gravity value, we're moving down too much. We're not jumping up enough, though. Like, our jumps are very, very tiny. The reason I put these into value, rather than just putting them down here, right? Rather than just putting these numbers in those spaces, because we don't ever change them in the code. They're what we call constants. They don't get changed, right? Is because when we run our game, okay, and I hit my jump, okay. All right, I need to make that jump higher. A lot higher, right? We want to get over this ledge. So, to do that, I can hit escape. I can type print grav, and grav is set at 2 right now. Okay, what if I say, hey, grav, or not print grav, I'm sorry. Print my jump max. That's -5. You know what? Let's just double it. Let's set jump max -10. And then I'm going to type resume. I'm not going to type run, and I'm not going to use Control R. I want my game to start from when I hit escape, so I type resume. Now, oh, look at that 10. Oh, that 10 is crazy. That 10 is too powerful. That 10, I mean, maybe you want a game like this, but this is certainly not what I signed up for, right? So that's insane. Let's hit escape. I'm using the up arrow here, okay? By hitting the up arrow, I can get to things I've already typed in. So hit the up arrow. Let's just come back. Let's try 7. And let's resume. Oh, 7 feels good. 7 feels like what I want. Actually, I feel like maybe the fall is not fast enough. Maybe I want to fall faster. So, let's set our grav to 3. Oops, I need the equal sign. Set grav to 3. Set the jump max to 8. I have to offset the jump because I increased the gravity by 1. If I want the same jump, I need to increase the gravity by 1. Okay. Of course, now I've gotten myself to the bottom. I really can't test, right? Oh, wow. How am I going to do this? Oh, I can cheat, just like I did here. I know that pl.y is my player.y. I'll just set to 0. And resume. That's a good fall. Maybe a bit too fast. So let's try 2.5 and let's try 7.5. Oh, and I didn't reset my player position to watch it fall. Okay, not too bad. So I went with 2.5 and -7.5. Let me get into my code. 2.5, -7.5. Remember I told you, we might be doing decimals. Now I'm going to hit Control R to run it from the beginning. Okay? Hey, we got our floating problem, which I said we'd solve in a minute. But we're mostly going to test, you know, do we have the kind of bouncy jump that I want? I can spam my jumps right now. I have to wait, you know, 4 frames, so it's not going to go crazy on me because I use button P. If I hadn't, if I just using BTN here, then all the frames that I held down, I would be jumping, which would be really hard to tweak those values. But I'm happy with this, right? So this is the kind of jump that I'm going to start with. May tweak it later. Maybe add more gravity later, but for the moment, this is good. Actually, you know what? I could have got myself out of here by abusing my ability to hold down the key, right? Okay. So we need to figure out a way to handle. We would have the same problem, by the way, on X if we move more than one at a time. So what we need to do here is figure out how far are we allowed to move and not get caught up on an edge. There's a lot of different ways we could do this. I'm going to try to do this in maybe the simplest to understand, but I might be typing a lot. Okay? There could be some more advanced math that we could involve into Map Collide. But maybe I'll start this one out and say, hey, let's say how do I want to do this? Try to avoid typing a while true loop on you, and doing a nasty break out of it. So while PL.Y, let's say, does not equal OY. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you guys? I'm not sure that it does. So what we have to do, okay, let me explain, let me back up a second. What I'm trying to do is say, if we collide, then how about this? Okay, if we collide, that's here. So now I know we've collided, all right? So if the map has collided, then what I need to do is see if the value that we've moved is safe. Okay? The value that we move is safe each time by subtracting a pixel from it. Right? So this gets tricky because, okay, PLY is where we want to go. PLY is where we started. So the difference between the two is how far we want to move. So if PL.Y is greater than PL.OY, then PL.Y minus equals 1. Else, PL.Y plus equals 1. And now I'm going to map collide again inside here. Now, this may work sometimes, but we still may get caught occasionally. But I don't think we're completely resting. Now, we can still Because even when we take off the 1, right? Even when we subtract off the 1, so that we're not moving as far now, we may need to do this again. And so this is where I was trying to, like, you know, hey, got to figure out when this works, right? We're going to set a variable here that says working equals true. Okay? And then we're going to try while working, do all this in. Because what needs to happen here is we need to keep adjusting y until we don't collide anymore. We need to keep taking 1 off until we find a good value that works. When we do, we can stop working. Working equals false. A little bit more advanced code than we've done. If I created a bad loop, oh, maybe I've created a bad loop. Oh, that's if it collides. Sorry. This whole loop here is if it collides. I have messed up terribly. Okay. Take those out. So, this, now nothing is working. So if we collide on the y, we're going to alter those values until we can get out. So if the y is greater than the oy, make it smaller, else add 1 to it. And then if the map collides again, we don't want to set this actually. We don't want to do that. We want to say if there's no collision. Now we have a working jump that's going to keep us in both directions. Right? We checked it for up and down. We can hit our heads okay. Can't quite make that jump back. That's an adjustment. So to go over this again, okay, I've changed our Y code. So we come in here, we set our J to jump max. And then the player Y changes by gravity and if we're jumping, any jump value. And then we see if we collide. And if we do collide, we set our working to true because we got some work to do. And while we're working, we're going to take the amount of the change off by 1. So if we were going up, right? Y would be negative if we were going up. So that Y would be less than the original Y. We're going to add 1 to it. So we don't go up quite as high. If we're going down, this Y would be lower. So, I'm sorry, this Y would be bigger because Y increases as we go down. We're going to subtract 1 so we don't go down as far. And then we're going to put in the not keyword that says, hey, if we do not collide, stop working. Whatever value we found did not collide, and we can go on. The last thing here that we can add is and PL.J equals 0. So this will stop our chain jumping, double jumping thing. Oops. When you use equals like this, that means to set PL.J to jump max, right? This assigns this value here. We want to test this value. So to make sure we don't get confused between assigning and testing, we use two equal sign. So that's what that error was there. Now I can only J if I'm back to where I started from. Okay? What I'm not checking is, am I actually on the ground? So I can test that I'm not jumping, but see, I can bounce when I hit 0. And there's a little bit of an inertia there left over that, based on when we check that value, that I can still do this. So J is not going to cut it. What we really want to say is OG, on ground. Right? So if buttons pressed and the player's on the ground, then we can jump. Now right now, we're always on the ground because we're not changing it to false, right? So when are we on the ground? When are we off the ground, right? So if we press the button and we were on ground, well, we just attempted to leave the ground, didn't we? So we've left the ground. So now we're going to do our math. And if we collide, right? If we have this collision and we have to figure out exactly how far we go down, we can be on the ground again. Except if, well, we should do this before we start messing with these values. If PL.Y is greater than PL.original Y. In other words, we're moving down, okay? We don't want to say we are on ground, we are OG, if we were moving up, if we hit our head. That should... We can hold it down and jump, but we no longer have any kinds of double jumping. I can just make that. You can just make that back. Yeah, I might want to tweak that up at some point, you know, like based on my game. I give a little bit higher of a jump here. We'll set this back to an 8. There we go. Makes that a little bit easier. Maybe I'm jumping too high. Maybe I need to tweak gravity. There is other ways to do this. Using math functions like sine and cosine to get a much smoother jump than the way I'm doing it. That will be a topic of a different video. I'm going to put the sine and cosine physicsy stuff into a different lesson, just to not overcomplicate things too much. But at this point, we have what we wanted. We have what we came for. We have jumping, and we have gravity here. So, thank you for watching.